everyone, welcome to DIY with Nancy. Today I'm going to share a recipe for an Italian pastry called Zeppole. Now Zeppole is known in Italy on St. Joseph's Day or St. Giuseppe Day, and my husband, who has an Italian background, loves fried Zeppole. So that's the recipe I'm going to share with you today, is fried Zeppole with a ricotta filling. So stay with me and watch how to make it step by step. Now first, to make the Zeppole, you're going to start off by making the dough. Here I have a medium-sized saucepan, and I'm going to start by placing 1 cup of water. To that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of sugar, and I'm also going to place 1 stick of unsalted butter, which is half a cup of butter, and all I did is cut them into small pieces so they can melt easier. Now we're going to turn on the stove to a medium heat. Now I'm going to wait until my butter is completely melted and comes to a boil. And at that point, I'll show you the next step. Now you can see that the butter's melted, it's come to a boil. At this point, I'm going to add 1 cup of all-purpose flour. You're going to make sure that your heat is now on a low heat. Consistently stir the mixture until it forms a ball of dough. And you'll see it starts pulling away from the sides of the saucepan, and you'll see that you'll form a ball of dough. You won't see any more flour, and at that point, you know your dough is ready and will be ready to move on to the next step. The dough is ready. I'm going to turn off the heat, move to the counter, and I'll show you the next step. For the next step, I'm going to take the dough that's in my saucepan. It's very hot. I'm going to transfer it to my mixing bowl on my stand mixer, and I'm going to let it sit there for about 10 minutes to let it cool, and then I'll show you the next step. Now that I've let the dough cool for about 10 minutes, at this point I'm going to turn on the mixer on a low speed and gradually add 3 eggs. And I'm going to add the eggs 1 at a time. And you can see that the dough is coming together nicely. Now once you've gradually added your 3 eggs, you're going to let the mixer mix the dough for an additional 2 minutes on high speed. Now, as you can see, I have the consistency of the dough. I just want to scrape down the sides of the bowl, bring it to the center, mix it for an additional 15 seconds, and then I'll show you the next step. My dough is ready. It's come together. I want to remove the paddle attachment and show you what the texture of the dough is. It's sticky. It's perfect, and this is what you're looking for. Now we're ready to move on to the next step. Now for the next step, now that my dough is ready, I'm going to need a piping bag with a star tip that looks just like this. And I'm going to use this piping bag to place the dough in and then to pipe and form my Zeppole. Now for the next step, I have a 9x13 parchment paper sheet here that I folded into 9 squares. I'm going to show you what I did here. So all I did is took the 9x13 piece of parchment paper and I folded it, and let me show you. So I folded in the middle and then I folded it again. Then I take the left side to the center, just like that, and the right side to the center. And you get 9 equal squares that way. So what I'm going to do is open up the parchment paper, and I'm going to place or pipe the dough for the Zeppole right onto each of the squares. Before I do that, I'm going to brush vegetable oil onto each square. And the vegetable oil is going to help the dough from getting stuck to the parchment paper once it's released into the vegetable oil. Now for the next step, I'm going to pipe the pastry dough onto each square, forming a round circle, leaving a hole in the middle, just as I'm doing here. I'm going to continue piping the pastry onto each square, and then I'll show you the next step.
Now that I have all the Zeppole piped into the squares, I'm going to transfer this to a baking tray. And once I have it on the baking tray, this is where I'm going to use the guideline of the square lines, as you can see, and cut them so that I can release each individual Zeppole into the oil to fry. Now I'm going to continue cutting the parchment paper until I have 9 individual squares. Then I'm going to move on to the stove and show you the next step. Now for the next step, I have vegetable oil that's heated in the fry pan. It's at a temperature of 330 to 340 degrees. Take the square with the piped Zeppole and simply release it into the oil. And you can see that it releases quite easily when you brush the oil onto the parchment paper. That way the dough doesn't get stuck to the parchment paper. So I'm going to fry the Zeppole for about 3 minutes on each side, or until you get a lightly golden brown color. Now you can see that the Zeppole has a nice lightly golden brown color, and at this point you know that your Zeppole is done. So once they're done and fried, you want to place them into a large strainer or on paper towel just to drain some excess oil. I'm going to continue frying the Zeppole and then move on to the next step. Now moving on to preparing the ricotta filling for the Zeppole. I've had the ricotta in the refrigerator for about 8 hours to drain any excess water from the ricotta. You want to make sure you remove that. You can see there's a lot of water into that bowl. Don't need that. You can also use a cheesecloth to squeeze any excess water from the ricotta. Now I have a separate bowl here to prepare the ricotta filling for the Zeppole. I'm going to place this ricotta cheese into a clean bowl to prepare this filling. So I have the ricotta cheese in there. Oh, it's perfect. There's no excess water, and that's what you want. At this point, I'm going to add 1 1/4 cups of powdered sugar or confectioner's sugar and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. To cream it together, I'm going to use my handheld mixer and mix it for about 2 minutes. I'm just going to stop in between just to use a spatula to scrape down the sides of the bowl and make sure that I have all the ingredients well incorporated. Mix it for another minute until your ricotta mixture looks nice and creamy, just as you see it here. Okay, so now what I want to do is show you how smooth and creamy the ricotta filling is. The spatula is going to bring it together, and I'm just going to pass the spatula through just so you can see how smooth it is. Look at that. Wow. Taste test. It's not too sweet, just perfect. Let's get ready to start filling our Zeppole with this delicious ricotta filling. Now for the last and final step, I'm going to place the ricotta filling into a piping bag because I'm going to pipe it into the Zeppole, which is now cooled and waiting for our filling. Cut the tip. You don't need a piping tip to be added to the piping bag. Take your Zeppole. Like I said, it's cooled. Cut it in half. I'm just using a serrated knife. Ooh, and the Zeppole looks perfect inside. Look at that. Now we're going to fill the Zeppole with the ricotta filling. 1 layer. Maybe a little bit more. Now here I have some Amarena cherries. There's a syrup. Oh, it's sweet and delicious. It's optional. You don't have to add the Amarena syrup or cherries. I'm going to pipe a little bit more of the ricotta filling right on top of the Zeppole. Now for the last step, just dust some confectioner's sugar right on top. Now take a look at this Zeppole pastry. We have some ricotta on the inside with some Amarena syrup with some ricotta topping, dusted with sugar, mouth-watering dessert. Now I'm going to continue filling the Zeppole. I'm going to make it different ways. Some I'm going to add with Amarena cherries. Some I'm going to leave just plain with just ricotta filling. My favorite is just ricotta filling and dusted with some icing sugar right on top. I'm going to finish filling the Zeppole and I'm going to show you what they look like inside. And here is my fried zeppole with ricotta filling. I have a little bit of Amarena syrup in the zeppole, and you know I'm gonna cut into it just so you can see what it looks like, and I'm gonna bite into it as well. This is a mouth-watering, delicious, fluffy pastry that is so delicious, especially with that ricotta filling, and I want to give this a try. So let me bite into it. Can't wait. Look at that. Wow, the ricotta filling and fried dough is a perfect combination. This fried zeppole with ricotta filling is an absolute divine, delightful, delicious dessert, and I hope you give it a try.
And there you have it, everyone. That's my recipe for fried zeppole with ricotta filling. You can make it with a custard filling as well. I do have a baked zeppole with custard filling here on my channel. I'll leave the link down on the description down below. This is a perfect, delicious dessert. I hope you all enjoyed the recipe. And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, thanks so much for watching. Take care. Mouth-watering. The ricotta with the puff pastry, fried, so delicious.